And we're double live. Let me turn this bitch on vibrate. You vibrate it up?
About as vibrated as I can get.
All right, good.
Off 3 beers.
All right, folks. Another episode. Talking shit with Sid. Let's do it. Hanging out with a longtime friend, Dale Gribble Brown, a.k.a. Rusty Shackelford. The one, the only. Fucking A right, man. Glad to have you in. I've been trying to get you to come do this for a minute with me.
I know. It's been a little bit of a challenge, these COVID times that we're in.
It's an interesting time for everybody, that's for fucking sure.
Absolutely.
How's it been with all the kids, though? Like,
honestly, it hadn't really changed much at all. The kids are always at home, so everybody else being at home really didn't change our situation at all. So,
are the kids doing Zoom school or going to real school?
Well, they started out, they were in a private school for a little bit, but about halfway through last year, we went ahead and just started homeschooling them because I realized I was spending 2 to 3 hours worth of time every evening doing homework anyway. So I was like, why not save my tens of thousands of dollars from spending on private education and just go ahead and have them do it all at home. So
yeah, if they're going to be weird from fucking private school, you might as well weird them up on your own.
Absolutely.
For free.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's the way I think about it.
Yeah.
So
the corona shit, when it hit, that really didn't matter for them anyway. They were already at home.
They were already at home. The only thing that's changed is really nothing, to be perfectly honest.
Well, fuck it, that's good for you because, there's so many people out there, myself included, and so many other Americans and people around the world that ain't that.
I know.
Life's coming back for us in the movie industry, guys, soon enough, it seems. But, yeah, that's...
Yeah.
What about the church stuff? How's that? Does that change the feelings of going to these gatherings and being at that normal regiment?
Nah. Obviously we try to be as cautious as we can with folks who are over the age of 60, but for the most part, we just gather together, try to keep our distance from those who may, possibly be affected by this virus the most, and we just gather to do our thing every Sunday.
I got you. It's good that you are getting together, and I hope nobody's gotten sick or anything. But for those of you that don't know, Dale, most of you probably won't, unless you're an Atlanta cat, like a lot of you other ones watching. But Dale has been a musician in Atlanta for quite some time, hung around for a long time, then was a starter of a really cool church. What was the name of that?
Church of the Advent. Church
of the Advent. And just a person and a member of the alternative religious scene throughout Atlanta and Christianity, and within, I guess, just to dumb it down, the rock and roll side of Christianity in Atlanta and that scene for quite some time now. And when I met Dale, I didn't know any of this. I didn't know of his past leadership roles and things, and he was actually a landlord I moved in with, and one of the spare rooms, and I didn't know that, was just covered and fucking pasted. It looked like it was basically Bible fucking pages or something, just on the wall, like mantic, like thou shalt not fuck you motherfucker, and it was crazy as hell. And then I found out that you had been a priest for a little while and had, went down that road and all that stuff. And then fast on a couple more years, and we're living together. And I walk in the house, and Dale's sitting back, just chilling, doing his thing as usual, reading and dipping something on his phone. And I'm like, what are you reading? He's like, oh, man, nothing. Just this interview I did with Rolling Stones about fucking exorcisms and shit like that. I assisted on. I was like, whoa, bro back, motherfucker! You can't just step in over that like it's no big deal and keep going. And then you told me one of the craziest stories that any of my personal friends have ever told me ever. That though, before we get into that completely, what led you into the religious path and to be someone who wanted to have followers or not, whatever the right phrasing for what it was that you went down. How did that come to?
I was born into it. Let's just be honest. There was no major crazy experience that I've had. I've been a Christian my entire life, and through ups and downs, twists and turns, and I've had a lot of them. My faith's always been important to me. I always say I'm devout, even though I'm not necessarily holy. So, it is the things, it is what it is. I've always been a Christian, I always will be a Christian. And as far as serving in the capacity that I served before, it was something that, for the time that I was doing it, I felt was appropriate and something I was supposed to be doing at the time. So, yeah, that was about it. There was no huge lightning clashes or whatnot.
But so you just felt you say you were born into it. What do you mean by that? Just that you had to go to church every time, or was your father or grandfather, uncle, or somebody else a preacher, a priest, any of that?
No, nobody that I know of personally was ever in pastoral ministry of any kind. I was just born into a religious family, and when I started going, being able to go off and do my own thing, it just kind of stuck with me. Going to church, being around people. I know a lot of folks have had bad experiences with Christians and leaders, and they perceive Christianity as what they see the worst parts of it as being the whole. Like they think, oh, this is, they see a street preacher out there railing about this, that, or the other, or they see something happening on the news about some pastor who said, don't do this, and then they get caught doing the exact same thing that they were doing. But my experience, I know those things are out there. I also know there's lots of folks who aren't religious who do things that they rail against as well. So I just see it as a part of human existence, that everyone is going to find themselves finding heroes that let them down. But for me, in Christianity, I never really put too many people on a pedestal, and I never expected too much from anybody who was religious. So anyone who came crashing down really didn't affect my faith that much, because my faith wasn't in an institution or a person. My faith was always in God. So I just kept things moving.
So what age were you when you hooked up with the folks and started the project when that all came together?
I would have been, seems like such a long time ago. When I first started, when I was ordained a deacon in the Anglican Church of England, what's known in this country as Episcopalians.
Sorry, kill that fan, Matt. The remote's right there for it. Straight in front of you. Nope, the other one. Straight ahead of you. I'm just not sure if that's catching up. I don't know.
It's all right.
Just hit the off button on the top of it. Okay, cool.
But yeah, it's known as Episcopalians or whatever here in the States. I would have been, it would have been 2006? It would have been 2005. So 25.
So did you already have kids at that point?
I had one.
Okay,
my oldest, Nevaeh.
I always thought you were a little bit younger when this happened. I thought you were more 20, 21. No,
I was in college at that time.
Okay.
Yeah. So
well, then if that's the time, then let's back it up a little bit. At what point were the exorcisms going on?
Well, exorcisms would have happened. So there's stories of things that I experienced in churches outside of the Anglican Church. Those go back to when I was a teenager.
When you were studying to become a priest?
Well, teenager all the way to my mid-20s. And then there was actual formal training, because there's there's a little bit of a difference when you're in when you're kind of growing up non-denominational, which means we just didn't go to any kind of particular church. We just went to a church, just that was a church. Growing up in those type of churches, there was no formal training in exorcisms. You just kind of did things spontaneously.
Smacking the shit.
Yeah. So when you hear of things going south real quickly with exorcisms, with someone being hurt or something happening that seems crazy, that's usually in those contexts of what's happening. It's people who have no idea what the hell's going on, literally and figuratively, and then they just get themselves in a situation and end up causing more problems than they do anything else. I kind of grew up in a church that was pretty much open to a lot of spiritual stuff. It's called Pentecostalism, and we were aware that there were things outside of the physical realm pretty much our whole lives. And so I had all kinds of weird, bizarre things that had happened with me growing up that led me to have questions when I started my formal training to become.
What kind of things was when you were growing up? Like,
well, we had things where not just myself. So, despite what some may believe religious folks to be, I tend to be very much on the skeptical side, and if things happen to me personally that I only experience, I tend to write things off as, well, it's probably my imagination or possibly just something, there has to be some reason for it. Right. Outside of, I'm not looking for a demon under every lampshade and whatnot. But, I mean, there has been times me and friends would be hanging out and we would hear literally voices calling our names. What age are you talking? We're talking about when I was like 17, 18, 19. We would all just be hanging out in my basement, hanging out either before show or even before we'd go get tattooed or something. These were specific events.
So what you're saying, you'd hear a voice, your mom, dad are not upstairs. Everybody's down here.
No one is there. Someone would yell my name. I would literally go open the door and yell, like, what? I'd close the door. It would happen again. Everyone's hearing it. It's not just me hearing these type of things. And I would go upstairs, and sure enough, no one was there. No one had been there. There were other events of things where people would be sitting there next to me, and they would just feel like things like grabbing their shoulder.
At this house, or
at this? It was a particular house. It was a particular house.
Where was that house at?
That one was in Powder Springs.
Okay, I got to stay the fuck away from Powder Springs.
that was, and these were things like a good friend of mine, Blaze Pearson, who's neon guy. Yep, also sung for Souls Unrest. Like we experienced a lot of things together that we could not explain, and that were clearly definitely had the potential to being something outside the physical realm. And it was stuff that we always experienced together in this particular house. There was one time, Blaze is a pretty big guy. He's not someone who's easily scared. And there was one time in that same house, we were both upstairs, and he had gone downstairs, and we were getting ready to leave or something, and I walked downstairs to meet him, and he was just like pale white, like he was just looked like he had seen something. And he was like, dude, I walked downstairs. I thought you were downstairs. I saw someone walk across the room, thinking it was you. I came down here and there was nobody here. And he was just like, what the hell was that? I was like, well, we've heard voices, we've seen things.
It was an old house?
No. If truth be told, I think it was something that was following my family. If I'm just going to be honest about it, I think it was something that was following my family, because it actually, even followed us from that house to a second house, where things just continued to happen in the other house. And
did it ever increase to actual like scary shit with those things? Did it ever escalate to?
Not. I mean, at that house, I mean, there were times there were times things would happen when I was by myself that I would get up and leave the house because I didn't want to be there by myself.
Get the fucking creeps.
Well, you just hear things like there was one time I heard literally, as crazy as it sounds, I'm sitting in the house, I hear the refrigerator door open and slam, and like all the magnets on the door just crashing on the ground. Like we had tons of magnets on our refrigerator. And I walked upstairs and there was just nobody there. No one had been there.
Were the magnets there?
All on the ground. Yeah. So I was just like, all right, well, I'm just going to pretend that didn't happen and just leave. And so there were several times where, it was a little crazy. So yeah. That was definitely.
So those types of experiences were kind of the shit that pushed you to, growing up religious, but then, I don't know if you say being a lucky one, because I know so many people that have claimed to do that. You see so many of these possession movies and horror shit that's the fucking plot. That's the beginnings of it and stuff. To have really experienced that or felt like you've experienced that makes sense to why you would have ended up in the field. But how did you get into the point where you were, I mean, I don't know, how does it work? How do you sign up and get so deep in that you're actually working with priests that are that fucking deep in the shit that you're in bedrooms trying to help people and stuff? How does that happen?
That happens primarily, so I was already obviously open to that potential of things happening. And believe it or not, the church is approached by a lot of medical professionals for things that they can't explain. And we were getting so many requests from medical professionals for us to talk or engage with potential.
Well, so yeah, how often does this if you had to nationwide, how many exorcisms are performed a year in 2020?
A lot.
Really?
A lot.
Why do you not hear about this shit?
Because number one, you don't hear about it because the church, if it's doing its job, which I think it is in this regard, isn't advertising it, because we're not out to try to promote, hey, come see the sideshow. We're here to try to help people. And so about 15 years ago, Pope Benedict XVI, within the Roman Catholic Church, there were so many requests coming in for exorcisms, actually created a school for exorcists in the Vatican. I think it was about 50, maybe even 20 years ago now. And
so like goddamn Harry Potter School of Exorcism.
That's it.
In the Vatican.
In the Vatican.
Okay.
It's in the head exorcist for the Vatican at the time, Father Gabriel Amorth, which I've always said, if you ever want to know what someone looks like who's battled the devil their entire life, just look at Father Gabriel Amorth. He looks like someone who's battled the devil his entire life. He's creepy looking as heck. Yeah. Father Gabriel took exorcism pretty seriously. As a matter of fact, Father Gabriel, he was the head exorcist for the Vatican, the head exorcist around the world. Said he literally talked to the devil every single day. He said the devil spoke to him in German and he spoke back to him in Latin. And so,
what would the devil say to him?
Who knows? I do not want to go that far. But yeah, the church there's tons of requests, personal requests, as well as medical requests for psychologists, psychiatrists, physicians who try to find the root cause of something and they can't seem to find it, and this particular individual feels that they are that they are possessed. And so after they exhaust all of their options, they come to the church and ask us to do an investigation. And, you know, it takes a while for us to do our own investigation. You know, we don't just, particularly, and I have to separate a couple things. I have to separate kind of the independent churches, these kind of mega churches and things that exist. They're doing their own individual things. But there are the older institutions like the Roman Catholic Church, the Church of England, the Eastern Orthodox Church, of which I now belong to, that have been around for pretty much 2,000 years, who, you know, we have our own kind of way of investigating these things. If someone comes to me, if someone would have come to me, now I'm retired, I don't do these things anymore. I still give advice and kind of stuff to certain priests who ask me, but I don't do anything formal. I'm just a laity in the church, the Orthodox Church. But if someone were to come to me back in the day and said, "I'm possessed, will you do an exorcism?" I wouldn't have just done an exorcism. I would have gone to the bishop. You have to go to the bishop. The bishop has to start a formal investigation. That means if the person hasn't gone to a psychiatrist or a psychologist or to a counselor, to start there.
Exhausted all the
all of the physiological,
the first obvious solutions.
Because you never know, and you don't want to cause more problems by just presuming that this is some form of malevolent entity trying to harm someone. So there's usually months, if not years, of investigations that go into exorcisms. And only after the investigation is complete does the bishop allow the resident exorcist. And when we say resident exorcist, I mean there's dioceses across the U.S. Let's just take the U.S., but around the world. There's dioceses around the U.S., and there's one priest, usually one priest, who's assigned the role as an exorcist, and no one knows who that priest is. No one's supposed to know.
For certain areas and regions, if you will. Okay.
And then that priest is called in, and he does the exorcism, the major rite of exorcism. What most people think of when they think of an exorcism, he does that. He performs it, and sometimes it takes, it's not just something that happens right away. Sometimes it takes weeks or even months of performing the rite of exorcism for something to be dealt with, depending on.
So when you say he does what people think, I mean, is it the fucking exorcism? Is that, I mean,
the major rite? Yeah.
Yeah. So how many of them did you set in on?
Well, not as far as set in. I participated in 3 formal, what are called the major rites of exorcism. Now there are other exorcisms which are called the minor exorcisms, and I set in, you know, probably a couple dozen of those.
Did you see any fucking crazy?
Oh yeah, you sucks cocks in hell. Oh yeah, yeah. That's what, you know. There is. It ranges. You know, there is.
Well, that's what I mean. I've seen people at Cirque du Soleil do some crazy backbending shit. I mean,
absolutely.
Humans are capable of some crazy shit, and I didn't think that these circus performers were, you know, possessed. Exactly. They're right. Really talented and can do some shit.
Do some contortions.
So you were convinced that you've seen some people that were truly possessed by a demon or some malevolent entity, as you.
Yeah.
Wow. And so what's that like when you encounter something like that?
It's more of a somber. It's very much of a somber situation, because it usually these type of things. So it's the more, the more. And it's hard, because I have my own personal thoughts on these particular issues. So this isn't all, let me start off with a disclaimer. I am not a priest any longer. I do not speak for any church. I have my own personal opinions, and these are those. That way I don't get...
You heard it here first, folks. I wouldn't, I'm not trying to get you fucking...
Right.
Big boy.
All of a sudden, I just disappear.
Like, so this is what the Vatican was
that's like. Right. No, but what I think is, honestly, the more, if you want to say high ranking or the more powerful the demon, the less, honestly, the less, like, showing, he doesn't show it. Yeah.
The display of coming out.
Yeah. Because I think a lot of times, what we call like hauntings of houses and things like this, which I think are true. I think those are just demons just trying to show off, to be perfectly honest.
What are they showing off? What are they just bored? They've been around thousands of years, so
I think so. I think also it's trying to incite fear.
Do they feed off that? Is that true?
I don't know. I do the way I vision demons. If I was to ascribe a motivation after a long period of time of reading, talking with exorcists, and then experiencing what I've experienced, I think demons, the best human understanding of it, I think, is almost like a bully. They're there to try to bully and intimidate us for some reason. They, just like a bully gains some sense of gratification in either scaring or I don't know, intimidating another entity, another person. I think that's really what it boils down to for demons. They seem to find
just a power.
Yeah, they just enjoy it. They enjoy, hauntings. It's easy to make creaking door noises. That wasn't a demon. That was someone coming in the door just a second ago. Well, but yeah.
Well, with the logic of this is what I've always been. So hauntings, are they always demons, or are general ghosts a real thing?
So the church,
is there people the good? If ghosts exist from souls that have passed on, then surely there are great and good-hearted people that passed on that turned into ghosts. So maybe they're just playing fun, lighthearted pranks.
So the church does recognize that there are human souls, if you will, that linger and don't find rest. I mean, there's actual prayers that the church prays for the repose of the soul of someone who's passed away, some of which haven't, whether it's you want to call it a ghost or not, it's a human soul. We don't. Those are not exorcisms.
Stuck in purgatory.
Or limbo of some sort.
Right.
They're stuck. They can't seem to rest, and so there are prayers that the church prays for those, but those generally are not like. They generally do not seem to be like trying to be like Loki. To use some form of mythology. They're not out there being mischievous. They just seem to be inhabiting a space and interacting with it to one degree or another.
Well, I to interrupt you on that, I never really believed. I've always been one that's enjoyed it, especially as a horror fan and watching so many things. But a lot of my closer friends know that I lost a sister 10 years ago back, maybe a little longer than that. And unfortunately she drowned at 25 years old in a bad accident. I never believed anything, but one of my friends a few years later asked me, he said, "Hey man, you mind if me and the family go swim at your family's lake house?" And I was like, "Hey, yeah man, no problem. I mean, it's locked up, but y'all can enjoy the dock and the property and stuff." And they're like, "Cool, that's all we need. When he got there, he told me, and he knew my sister as well, but he said his 2-year-old son, when they got there, was frightened to death and crying and said, "I don't want to go down there. I don't want to go down there." And they're like, "Why? Why?" And he says, "Because that girl that's down there who won't stop crying, that's really, I don't like her. I don't like that girl that's down there crying." There's nobody down there. And he immediately said he got chills, ran up and down his body, and I did too when he told me the story. And it's just I've never, like I said, so. And then with that being said, it's weird to me because one of the things you hear from people that claim to be an authority on the matter seems like those are run on a loop almost. Not so much that they're moving throughout, that they're actually reliving those moments leading into.
Yep, they're not finding rest.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're trapped in tragedy. And the church does have prayers for those, and to help, because all forms of prayers, whether it's supposed, whether or not Christians know this or not, I don't think very few do these days, seemingly. But all prayers of the church are there primarily for, as far as for us, are for healing. It's to help us be at peace and to find healing, emotionally, physically, spiritually. And I think it's the same way with those human souls that are trapped between resting and not resting. And they do seem to be, like you said, on that. The only way of describing it in human terms is on a loop. But seemingly, when someone experiences a tragedy like that, they weren't able to go be at rest, like others, and so they do seem to stay, and there does seem to be a permanence. And I mean and as crazy as all these things may sound to 21st century Americans in air conditioning, there's a very long tradition, not just even within Christianity, but around the world, that human souls don't just simply, when you die, if you believe in the soul, don't just simply disappear or go somewhere. I mean, there's a sense in which the soul stays within close proximity to the body. Within Judaism and early Christianity, you had this human soul stayed within the body, close to the body, for 3 days. And that's the whole, we used to have these things called wakes and things where people would sit with the body for several days after they died. That came from the understanding that the human soul just didn't simply, as soon as you quit breathing, went on to...
So with that being the thing, that the soul's the actual only tangible part of that, is there any truth to in the believings that you have on the back end that that the devil deals in souls? Is that one of the reasons these demons are trying to take on in these people to get there? I mean, is there anything to that?
No. I think...
So Charlie Daniels wasn't really playing...
Right. Yeah. Well, he may have beat the devil. Who knows? He's obviously...
Crossroads. Devil didn't meet Robert Johnson at the Crossroads.
Right. So, but no, I don't think the devil deals in souls. I think that if I were to give an overarching view of what I think demons, in particularly what most people call the devil or Satan or Lucifer, whatever name you want to use, I think there's a sense of jealousy. If you want a theological thing, I think that they're jealous because human beings were created in the image and likeness of God. Every single human being, no matter what religion, what race, what ethnicity, whether male or female, or any other gender that one wants to use for oneself, or identity of what someone believes themselves. The ultimate identity for every human being, at least from a Christian perspective, is that they were created in the image and likeness of God. And I think, at least this is a very traditional Christian understanding, is that created a jealousy within angels who see particular angels who fell.
So that's one of the things I've always been confused with. The angels that fell, are the angels, were they humans that became angels?
No.
So they're not human, they're angels. So do they look like us only with wings? But no, they're giants, aren't they?
You're
all over the place.
Who knows? That is there within the popular imagination of human beings. Angels take on.
Did I just make that up? That they're giants?
Nope.
Okay.
You're thinking of another old story of potentially the giants of old were actually offspring of angels and human beings together.
Okay.
There's an old Jewish. It's not scripture, but it's an old Jewish story that said angels found women really attractive, which I understand, and then they ended up procreating with them, and then all of these, and then they ended up with all these fucking giants.
Oops, I did it again.
Yep.
That's where the Jack and the Beanstalk stories came from.
Yeah.
So not to not want to let you get past it too far. Back to when you were assisting with these. Walk us through what one of those is like. You show up to would it be at the person's house, or what kind of locations would it be? Walk us through
So you really,
the ones you experience.
you really want to do two. There's several things. Number one, there's preparation that goes into these things.
I'm talking about on the day.
The day you walk in.
It's kickoff day though. For the
priest
rite.
is there. Several priests are there. It's the one of them I assisted at was at a home. One of them was in a parish. So depending on where you want to be, older traditions of the church say it's best to be at a monastery or a nunnery to do these type of things. But one was at a home, and it's really it's you kind of you don't know what to expect. And so as far as kind of going into the house, you may feel a little weird, but it's hard to know if you're feeling weird just because you're walking into what you're walking into, or if it's something weird because some weird. So you go in, and this young guy's sitting there, and the priest will start doing his preparatory prayers. Everyone's fasted. This is for a major rite of exorcism. Everyone's fasted. Everyone's gone to confession. Everyone's done things that they.
I mean, that's all the members that are on board. The team,
because there's a team. It's never just one. It's never one-on-one.
Right.
So there's a whole team.
You are ganging up on this bastard.
Well, there's lots of things that could happen, and so you need witnesses. You need to be able to make sure that if stuff starts going down, that there's enough stuff that there's, and then there's people like for me, I was simply there to pray for the priest, and the others that were there to pray for the priest as well as for the person who's experiencing the rite of exorcism, because this is at the very least, it's a very emotional time, and taxing time.
I could fucking only imagine. Jeez.
Now for the first, what happens in the rite of exorcism is the priest begins to pray the prayer silently, and it's a long rite, and you just slowly start praying the prayer. You go through it once, nothing happens. We went through it twice, nothing happens. You can go through it a third time, nothing happens.
When you say nothing happens, what do you mean? Did no change in the person? So what are they doing during?
They're usually sitting. They're sitting. We try to sitting comfortably. You want to make sure that
Are they ever full on Linda Blair or anything close to that? I mean, what have you experienced?
Yeah. So what happens usually over time? So that we usually set a period of time. This is what we're gonna pray for this amount of time. And what's usually happening in this first kind of rite that's being performed is just seeing what may or may not manifest. And depending on what may or may not manifest will determine how long this thing goes on. So this young person sitting there went through it 3 times. Nothing happened. On the 4th time, you could kind of see like joints tightening up. Now that could mean a whole lot of things, but obviously it's something different that changes. And so we watched as the priest continued to pray, and it was then that a particular voice could be heard under the breath. You can just hear it. And
like throwing their voice to almost time.
It was just this a different voice. I mean,
well, are they muttering? Do you see their lips moving? They're speaking, or
I'm sitting in a corner over here. Person sitting kind of like where I'm at, not against walls or nothing, but I'm sitting kind of behind. And you can just start hearing like a different voice. It's not their normal voice, and so that's when the priest begins to ask for the name
of the demon.
Or, because at that point in the rite of exorcism, this thing has made itself known. And this was someone, I don't know the whole backstory to this person, but this was someone who had for years and years gone through doctors and doctor visits. I don't know how many different physicians or psychologists they went to, but I know that this person had been in medical limbo for a while, and for some reason they were really convinced that they were possessed, and the priest was given permission by the bishop to attempt an exorcism to do it. They seem to say there seems to be enough evidence for this person to be possessed. So when the priest began to pray on the fourth turn, that's when this thing started to manifest. Now, this thing didn't go batshit crazy like everyone sees in the movies, but he definitely was communicating back and forth. And there was a whole, you know, this thing was definitely pissed. Like, and the priest never did get the entity's name, at least with the...
Couldn't get the cowardly cop.
Yeah, because when you get, and I don't know what it is, I have no idea, but this is across all exorcists, and interestingly, not even just Christian. I mean, this is universal. So this is one thing I always point out. Exorcisms are a universal phenomenon. I mean, this is stuff that takes place in Islam, Christianity, Buddhism, Hinduism, various forms of African religions. I mean, there's not a place on this planet.
Do the scholars of each religion, do they believe that there are any similar demons that are from religion to religion? Oh, that's the same cat right there that's doing this shit?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah. There is almost like a pantheon of demons that seem to show up in various religions, in various places, and even demons. You know, for instance, there seems to be almost a name for the devil in every single religion. This head demon, this head devil, the first big one across all religions, and they're readily recognized.
So I've always heard the stories of the architect of Jesus being Immaculate Conception, born on December 25th, died, then come back to life. That story had been recreated or can be shown. Maybe I'm making this part up. Maybe it's 20 some odd times. I remember through I heard of it through bands I had heard of. Zoroaster. So a few other names, but does the devil follow along with those paths as well? With any of those, are you aware?
Islam, Christianity, varying forms of North African religions that were prior to Islam and Christianity. Yeah, they seem to all have the story of the devil. Seems to have a common narrative or common story, backstory. Now, other religions don't have the same story, but they do have a kind of an arch devil.
Good and a bad.
An arch devil. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Growing up here in the South, I was always Southern Baptist.
Mm-hmm.
The occasional tongue talker.
Yep.
I can't remember because it's just so long. I feel like we might have had a revival one time when somebody came out and drank a little strychnine. Just a little strychnine.
Just to see what happened.
Just to see what happened. Did you ever attend any churches that were snake handling and strychnine drinking and stuff like that, being here in the South?
I did not go to those particular kinds of churches, but I grew up Pentecostal tongue talking.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's more of a Baptist thing.
Baptist and Pentecostal, yeah.
You remember Jacob, my old guitar player?
Yep.
Good friend. Haven't seen him in a while. You motherfucker. He was a youth minister growing up, and they were in the mountains of northwest Georgia, very, very country territory. And they would go around doing jubilees and different revivals with other churches, and they ran the snake handling circuit. And funniest story I remember him telling me, they were at another church one time that had colored pane glass everywhere.
Right.
They had names, just hundreds and hundreds of names all throughout it. And they're in the middle of a show, and they're up there doing their thing, snake handling and drinking strychnine. And Jacob was like, God almighty, these folks, what are they doing? And he's in mid-conversation with somebody, and they say, what do you think all them names are? And about the time the music stops, he said, the music cuts, and he says, the names are probably from people that died fucking with them snakes.
I was about to say the same thing. Oh, gosh.
And he's the visiting youth minister.
Right.
On top of that. So,
Shit.
I never.
I can see that.
But with that being said, the same deal as like growing up with that and seeing the tongue tied and being around, even though I didn't attend the churches, that I knew tons of people that did. It's just, when you say that it's real, it happens. It's a common enough thing. I would think that somebody in my crazy ass line that I've ran would have come across it. If nothing else, I mean, growing up in a pawn shop, you see some fucking shit. Somebody be like, I need $20 for the exorcism.
Right.
You think you would have heard something like that at some point. And
yeah, well.
So as they kept trying to, is that the most extreme manifestation or displays you ever seen?
In the major rite of exorcism, yes, that was the most extreme. I mean, I've been witness in those type of churches that you were describing. I've seen other crazier things of, people slithering around on the ground like a snake.
Yeah, but see, that stuff, I don't know how you ever prove or say that they're actually talking in tongues or they're actually feeling the Spirit of God or whatever and start that slithering shit. It's nothing better than a good old Slayer mashup with that.
Right. Yeah, I have not seen anything, as far as I've heard stories. I've read stories of people who've experienced and people who and interviewed people who I think had credible stories.
Well, that's like going back to it. Growing up religious and experiencing these things and being baptized, I remember that was a great feeling. And I remember being saved for the first time. I was at church. Me and my mother had just started a new church. I was 12 or 13, right at that age. I was skateboarding. I was cool. I remember like a little asshole. I wore this shorties shirt with your bushings. They were a brand called Dodos. And those were the little characters that were made out of the bushing. They were little dodo guys. And one I was wearing was a devil guy. And I wore my devil Dodo shirt to church. I'm hanging out with all the other kids over here in these pews over here. Mama and her sister and my aunt are over there doing their thing. The preacher starts up his bullshit. Come on down, everybody, get your shit. Let's do it. If you're a piece of shit and you know it, you better get on down here. The price is right.
Right.
So all of a sudden I look up, Mama's going. I'm like, oh, she's fucking. Then she walks straight up to me and grabs my hand in front of everybody and dragged my ass all the way down there. And at a certain point, you just submit and you go for it.
Yeah.
And I remember just listening to that preacher and going through it, and it felt good. Yep. It did. It felt good as shit and going for it. Then we set up, and I was going to be baptized the very next weekend. And we did that, and it was in a jacuzzi that was up behind the altar, warm as water.
Better than freezing water up in the mountains, which I've done a few of those.
And so I wore a suit to church that day. No Dodo devil shirt this day. The suit, shirt, and everything. Did my shit. Went home, got in an argument with my dad, called him an asshole and a motherfucker. He beat the shit out of me. And that was the day I was baptized. And that was also one of the days, I remember at the end of that day realizing, I don't know if this is real. Something's going on.
Right.
But moving in with you in a lot of the late night conversations of drunk as can be and just staying up too late and going down it gave me a different perspective on it. I don't know that I'd still necessarily say I'm not a believer, but I'm definitely on the track of an agnostic way more than I used to be.
Right.
It's very interesting to speak with a priest, an ex-priest, whatever, when, like I used to say, you were a monk because you slept on the ground. When he first moved in, this motherfucker slept on the ground in a fucking 6-bedroom house that he owned for 2 years. Like a
Not because I was trying to be a monk, but because I was too cheap to get a mattress.
no, he was a religious man. That's what I thought. Dale is so devout. He's religious. He's like a monk. He doesn't need or want anything. He's just a stinking ass, bike riding, fucking whiskey drinking
monk.
Not true. Just cheap.
Just cheap. I also drink and enjoy a bike.
But it was really cool and grateful to finally be an older man who's been through this heavy metal world of Satan, fuck yeah, and always not taking it serious or anything.
Sure.
And always losing faith. And then having somebody who understands 100%, who also knows heavy metal, Satan, who knows drinking too much, who knows experimenting with drugs, and just knows what real life is instead of any other pastor or religious person you could speak with or talk to. It was just so refreshing to speak with you versus anyone else. It changed my perspective on things. And then it's just really cool to talk about aliens with a religious person
right,
too.
Right.
That's always a fun one.
Yeah, or Bigfoot.
No. Bigfoot's dick.
Yeah.
With that being said, I think if I can remember our last one, and I don't even want to go to where we ended up because I'd rather retrace it a little bit if I can think where to step back in. Aliens, man. As a religious man, what is your take on it? What do you think? Where do you think I kind of already remember what we talked about, but I can't.
Well, when it comes to aliens, I think there obviously has to be some other entities that are out there.
Do you think that that's what could be spoke about and registered, or do you think it's involved at all in our religious arc as things? When you get to go back to Egypt and all these things where it all kind of lines together and some of the stuff, do you think there's any chance that what I've always said jokingly was that the story of Jesus is true. Jesus was immaculately conceived by an alien. Just somebody else, an alien did that, and he said, "Hey, yo, deuces, everybody. I'll be back. Love everybody. Be good. This is my son. He's going to kind of tell y'all what's going on. I'll be back in a couple thousand." Dude, and that's it in a nutshell. What I think happened, and then it got kind of misconstrued to a lot of stuff.
I wouldn't go that direction with it, but what I would say is that I tend to take overarching human experience as a starting point, because you have to start somewhere. Everyone has to start somewhere. Right. And one of the things that I take as a given is that human beings have common experiences with certain things, and obviously there seems to be enough human experience with visitors from outside of this planet's atmosphere, whatever you want to say, and those that get really loud really quick. and those visitors seem to have a place. I think those particular things are what we would describe as aliens, but I also think that there's a separate grouping of entities that we would call angels, and then also demons, and then also souls that exist. I think those are two separate or several separate groupings of things that exist.
And see, that's what when you do a lot of mushrooms and DMT and right. watch too much Joe Rogan and hang out with crazy ass friends like I got, you end up thinking that it's all connected. All of those things: angels, demons, the universe, time travel. And that then it gets into the point where angels and demons and ghosts are confused with one another. You don't actually know what you're dealing with here, and it's energies. it's actually all energies, and a demon, a ghost, anything,
Right.
they're all an energy that's stuck in maybe different types of loops or whatever they're stuck in, and it's a matter of dimensions and time and space all being relevant. And that when you get that deep, the conversation becomes nothing and everything
Right,
all
right.
at once. And I just try. You can talk about it forever. I love it. And you being cool enough as an ex-priest to indulge those conversations, and especially when, like I said, I remember numerous nights when it's 4 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
We're just, I'm like, no, but how about this? You tell me.
And I was like, let me tell you, possibly this.
Well, there's been so much fucked up shit with the church that you just no wonder anybody has questions with it, you know.
Sure. Absolutely.
One last perspective I want for you before we go, because I don't know if you guys can hear it or not, but there's a band in the studio right next door that's kicking off. You're one of the only people I can ask that's going to give a straight up honest answer, and if there is any conspiracy to it, I know that you're not one of the ones that's in on it, if however you want to put it. Within the priesthood, why is pedophilia so predominant in that realm? Is it that it's so predominant in the world and it's not being discovered, and it's for some reason there's a weak link that they keep getting busted? Or is there, someone told me one time, it was the wildest theory I've ever heard, but it was shocking. It was like, no, bro, there's a doctrine hidden in the Vatican. If you look at the true paperwork, and the pages missing from their Bibles that says fucking children takes them closer to God and all this. And I was like, whoa, total mind blower, dude. Shut the fuck up with that kind of stuff. But what is your perspective on why there's been such a high amount of that in the priesthood and in the Catholic realm?
Within the Roman Catholic. So I've never
Yeah.
been Roman Catholic.
Right.
But I think that the emphasis on celibacy was a cop-out for a lot of, particularly men, obviously, particularly men who dealt with those type of issues before they became priests. That they thought that the only way to solve those issues was to become a priest. And the problem with the priesthood is that there is a veil of secrecy that almost facilitates the exploitation of other human beings. Could facilitate. I'm not saying does. Could facilitate, and in those particular cases does. So that it's the perfect storm of men, some of whom were molested when they were kids, and then that in turn feeds on, it's like an endless
They were
loop.
molested in the church themselves
Yeah.
as well? Oh.
Yeah. And it's just like an endless loop of them trying to, those particular men trying to deal with it by thinking, well, maybe if I become a priest, I'll have a way of combating this obviously fucked up experience that I'm seeing. And what happens is they find themselves in like a secretive society, more secretive than any other society, and then that lends itself to that type of thing. It's by no means exclusive to the Roman Catholic Church.
No, that's not. I wasn't suggesting.
No,
that.
I know, but
Yeah. I mean, there's
But it
there's the
is-
elephant in the room for sure.
it is, and I think ultimately, some, not, I won't say the majority, but some individuals like psychopaths and things, and that's a whole nother question of how to deal with psychopaths, human beings that literally have no feelings, could literally join the church and join it knowing the kind of power that they would have over individuals. All of that lends itself to that, unfortunately, and you know, all the church can do at this point is repent instead of telling everybody else to.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely one way to look at it. It's still something that just leaves me scratching my head, and I guess it's probably something that always will. It's been as old as time, and it seems like that's been something. And I guess like you say that repeating cycle. I guess it's almost like the Boy Scouts. Even they've had their issues with it, and I guess that could be an argument. It's the cycle of young, because that's something that a lot of people that are scouts when they're kids and go on to run through it their whole time. A lot of those people do become scout leaders later on. So that's plausible, I'd say. Interesting thought on it. I like my conspiracy theory better.
Well, I know I honestly know there is no secret passages of scripture that say fucking kids make you closer to God.
That makes me feel better.
Hand to God, that's my last thing I'll say as a priest.
That's good. I knew it sounded crazy when I heard it, but I still was like, man. Yeah. But then the more it happens and you see it, just like, man, give me a fucking Mormon or a Jehovah Witness diddling a kid, please. You're rolling the dice. It's like, who are they? You're like,
yeah,
fucking Catholic.
And
fucking time.
And it is, every the thing that's I think probably the most condemning thing for the church isn't so much that it happens within the church, because it happens throughout the world.
You're right.
The thing that is that the church hasn't yet owned up to dealing with it.
Right, and that's the sketchy part is whenever you see that, like, the way they deal with it is by taking a priest and putting them in an area that doesn't enforce it or police it as well.
Yeah,
they move put them with children that are. I've seen one instance where a priest was caught and they sent them to the Vatican to figure out what they're going to do, and they sent them to South America or somewhere to a school for deaf and dumb kids. They could not
report it.
Just like it's like, holy shit.
Yeah, that's definitely that's evil on a way that even I mean, and I'm kind of bringing this back around. That's evil in a way that even demons, I don't think, could imagine how to do that.
And with that being said,
I don't even think it is demons. I think humans have a way of being worse than devils, and in that case, I would say they are worse than devils.
And with that being in the church, and alive and well still to this day, it's just existing, what percentage it is, I don't know. That's what makes it so hard for myself and some other people to be devout and to really find it. I think is just, how could such evil live at the core of what's supposed to be the foundation of all things good?
Yeah.
When the center of this is rotten, But then what's also, whenever I hang out with you and we get in those conversations, I look forward to them always, because it's, even though I find so much of the text and stuff to be bullshit, it makes you feel good at the end of the day. I've always said, I'm not satanic. I don't want to be. I wish I had the faith, because I mean, what idiot doesn't want everlasting glory and to see your loved ones and to see my mother and my sister and my grandparents again one day?
Right.
Who doesn't want that? I wish I could find the faith and truly believe that that's going to be that one day.
Sure.
So in talking with you sometimes makes me think, well, maybe one day I will find that,
Right.
So I appreciate these always. And
always, brother.
It's been another good time right now. So everybody check it out. Dale Brown, you want to give away any info on any of the books that you've written? We didn't even go over any of that stuff. Dale's an accomplished writer and does some things for a long time. Drop a line about anything you're doing, whatever you got going on.
I don't have anything right now in the works. I'm rewriting some of the stuff I've written before. So once I get that out, you'll find it somewhere out there, I'm sure.
Okay.
But right now, I'm rewriting some stuff. So
look forward to it. Can't wait. Anyways, talking shit with Sid, Dale Brown.
Cheers.
Thanks a lot, guys. Yeah, man.